We now return to Let's Play Coteries of New York. Let's rest. Okay. And it's been 2 or 3 nights, so now let's go back to D'Angelo. I guess we could at some point. Well, after D'Angelo, we'll maybe fix this up. Whatever comes next there. As you leave your haven, a homeless man bumps into you. You turn after him, but he blends into the crowd before you can even get a good look at his face. Instinctively, you check your pocket. A note? Looking at Manhattan Bridge. Come over. D. Knowing there are only so many places with a good enough view of the Manhattan Bridge, you decide to check the ones that aren't likely to be crowded at this time of night. It doesn't take long before you hit the jackpot, Jane's Carousel. As you're walking along the pier, you notice a lonely figure sitting on the bench, steel flask in hand, his legs up on the railing. Soon enough you hear a familiar voice. Was that in the game or outside? It's hard to tell. There's actual city noises in the game. Oh, he's monologuing. Evening turned to night, and as the final flickering rays of sunlight gave way to the kind nocturnal shadows, so did the last of the jabbering tourists give way to a blessed silence. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling. Pausing mid-sentence, he leans back over the bench backrest and looks straight at you. Upside down, his face looks even creepier than usual. That I wasn't alone. What is it with you and narrating? It takes the edge off. Just like this. He takes a sip and points the flask in your general direction. Fancy a sip? Oh, absolutely. Why not? You take the flask and take a swig. It's blood, all right, mixed with other frivolous substances, some of which you recognize, while others probably don't want to know. That's the spirit. Now that you're good and soused, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Been another one. Killing, I mean. Down by the docks. Same MO? Blood? The graffiti? Yep, it was our gal, all right. That is in the game. That one is in the game. Victim sucked dry, same as before. Another sign on the wall. Something about impending doom and all Lawdy coming. The particulars escape me. You know, that night I saw her. She looked so frail, so innocent. Deep inside I was hoping she'd be spooked, get out of town. That maybe, just maybe, that we would be the end of it. But that's me, you know. Hopelessly optimistic. You know why she's doing it? Doesn't really matter at this point. Whether she's Kane's chosen or just a poor girl gone nuts after a botched embrace, one thing is painfully clear. Gives you a look full of worry and sadness. She ain't gonna stop. He takes a swig as if to punctuate the sentence. So anyway, I started blasting. I set up a meeting. Neutral ground, public space. Shouldn't get too ugly. Still, I was hoping you could tag along. Who are we meeting? He takes another compulsive swig. Better strap in, because this one's a doozy. Just fucking tell me, I'm getting impatient. For crying out loud, just fucking tell me, who are we meeting? Valerie. The murderous bitch from last time? Likes to choke people out for the fuck of it? Valerie? That Valerie? You ever notice this? If you repeat a word enough times, it just starts to sound like animal noises. But yeah, that Valerie. I know you two didn't exactly hit it off, but she's not as bad as you might think. I mean, in some respects, she's probably worse. She can be reasoned with. Once again, he goes for the flask, but stops himself mid-motion. Look, the way I see it, we ain't got a choice. Much as I want to help Santa, she's clearly a few bats short of a belfry. More people are going to die unless we do something about it. You think Valerie can be trusted? Angelo almost does a spit take. Fuck no. But we can do business with her. I'm just worried that her asking price might be too steep for my liking. But then again, you don't always get what you want, huh? Noticeably proud of his words of wisdom, he tries to top him off with one last swig. A single drop falls between his crooked teeth. He looks at the empty flask with utmost contempt. Well, ain't that fucking poignant. Muttering a curse under his breath, he makes a valiant effort to get up off the bench. As he staggers, struggling to remain upright, you offer your shoulder to lean on. He shoots you a smile that's as crooked as it is affectionate. Hey, kid. You meet his gaze, trying to look friendly rather than condescending. You're all right. With that heartfelt moment, you bid adieu to the sprawling vista and make your way towards the bridge. Next stop, Manhattan. Entering the park from Midtown Manhattan, you promptly take a spot by one of the alleys, not very deep into the park. Minutes pass. 5, 10, 15. You start to wonder if she's ever going to show up. Suddenly you hear a familiar voice, but with an unfamiliar tone. She sounds almost nice. Hello, Ginny. There she is, walking along the side of the fountain. She looks less out of place here than back at that junkie-infested hovel, but only by a slight margin. Something tells you there are only so many places she would feel at home, and probably not ones you would want to find yourself in. Val. She glances over at you, barely noting your presence. Sorry about last time, nothing personal, you understand. When I get caught up in the moment, I can get a bit intense. I can attest to that. Get a room, you two. Can you two just get a room, because the sexual tension is just unbearable. D'Angelo gives you a pleading look. He clearly doesn't want you to dwell on the subject. You hear that, Ginny? Your friend has this all figured out. She takes a step towards you. The smell of her perfume is overpowering. Or maybe it's just jealousy. Although I'd be careful if I were you. Last time we got close, it didn't exactly work out for you. Speaking of which, how's that neck doing? I would imagine that he was getting to be this way. But she'll probably just grab the finger and break it if we do that. It's fine. I barely felt it anyway. She can tell you're lying. You can tell she's enjoying herself. I'm so glad. Now, let's get down to business. Why am I taking the lead here? We're here to talk about Santa. Who? Oh, right, the Thin Blood. What about her? The girl's a threat. We need to find her. Figured we can do it faster if we work together. Uh-huh. Keep going, honey, because I have a feeling there's a catch coming. The catch is... Awkward silence. It's not often you see him at a loss for words. Seeing him struggle, you decide to jump in. Why the fuck am I talking? We want the girl to stay alive. See, now that's the deal breaker right there, sugar. If you want me to even consider it, you'll have to sweeten the pot. Once again, she turns to D'Angelo. And I bet tall, dark, and handsome over here might have some ideas. I don't like where this is going. Don't get too excited, kid. She wants a higher profile target, to show off to the prince what a good little scourge she is. That all you care about nowadays, huh? Playing the game, climbing the ranks. A smile creeps onto her lips. You can tell it's forced. D'Angelo definitely knows how to get under her skin. That's my Ginny, a big old brain and a heart to match. Once again, she turns to you. I knew right away he'd try to help this girl. He does love him a damsel in distress. Oh, she's had a southern accent this whole time. But you, I'm not sure what your angle is. Now, what do you care? I don't, honey, not really. It's called making conversation. I'm not very good at that with women. So there. You know my terms. Contact me when you've made up your mind. Don't take too long, though. I'm a lucky girl. I might just find your little Thin Blood on my own. Still, I hope we can work together. We did make a good team back in the day, didn't we? Slowly, seductively, she puts her arms around his shoulders. She glances over to you, clearly enjoying how awkward it makes you feel. Does it? You got some explaining to do. I mean, it's not really our business. And this is just rude. I mean, right now, he's been the most helpful guy in the game. Once this meeting is over, you'll have some explaining to do. He really doesn't owe me an explanation. You hear that, Ginny? You're in some hot water now. Anyway, withdrawing from the strange half-embrace, she flicks D'Angelo's nose gently with her index finger. Almost instantly, she turns from flirtatious to dispassionate. However this plays out, I have a feeling we'll meet again, sooner or later. Until then. Without sparing you another glance, she disappears down an unlit park alley. Angelo watches her go. The look on his face, a mixture of longing and guilt, is borderline comical. Finally, he turns back to you, as if breaking some spell he was under. Well, I could have gone a lot worse. What just happened? She wants me to give her Larson. How is he involved? Well, I mean, because he's the thin blood leader and nobody likes him. Why would she want Larson? He's a primogen, remember? A weak one, but still. For a scourge, he's a much more valuable target than some no-name Duskborn. It just so happens that a certain someone might have some dirt on him. He squints, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Fuck it. I'm heading back to the office. Need to put my feet up, get some blood flowing to the old noggin. You coming? You nod. Why the hell not? And so you make your way toward Fifth Avenue. You've got a long way ahead of you, but a lot of stuff to figure out. Although it's not your first visit, you still find it hard to navigate the dark, rust-ridden corners of the grain terminal. Luckily, this time you're with someone who could probably do this blindfolded, so you just follow his lead. As you're both climbing the rickety stairs leading to the mezzanine, you suddenly notice light coming from D'Angelo's office. A quick look assures you that no, he did not in fact leave it on. You bust through the door like undead Tango and Hooch, or was that Turner and Cash, ready to unleash holy fury on the intruders. You half expect an Anarch death squad or an SI hunting party. I mean, would I? Would I expect an Anarch death squad? What would I know about that? Instead, you get Larson, who nearly falls out of the chair when you two bust in. What are you doing here? What does it look like I'm doing? Why am I asking these questions? This isn't my place. I'm waiting for you two bozos to show up. Seemingly both intrigued and irritated by the surprise visit, D'Angelo walks over to a cabinet and pulls out a fresh cigar. Now that the clowns have arrived, does His Highness mind telling us what brings him to our merry circus tent? Her. He points at a tiny shadow cowering in the corner of the room. To your astonishment, it turns out to be a very familiar face. Blood. No, not again, please. Did she tell you anything? She just keeps babbling about blood and signs and all this nonsense. She came to my house, probably figured out who I was, though I thought I could help her. But honestly, I have no idea what to do with her. I mean, I should turn her into the prince, but it's just another strike against my people. Then again, can't just set her loose, not after what she did. Fuck, Angelo, you can tell that I'm desperate if my first instinct was to come to you. No, Larson, I would attribute that decision to what's left of your common sense. He leans over to you. Hey, kid, I think we should call it a night. Just give me some time to talk to the girl. Maybe I'll get through to her somehow. The sign, it's always there. Oh, I ain't holding my breath. Honestly, you're glad to leave him to it. Spending the night in a small room with a tiny serial killer somehow doesn't seem too appealing. My God. Still, you're hoping D'Angelo will be alright. He's got some tough choices ahead of him. Okay, I'm going to take a drink here so we can read, and let's move on to somebody else. I feel like dealing with the part twos sort of in a round makes a lot of sense, but thematically, I also feel like maybe this one is most pertinent. Although, I mean, these could take place at any point in the timeline. You know, I imagine that we're gonna... Sophie's gonna call us back and be like, hey. So I guess we'll just go back and around here and do them evenly. Somebody's watching me. Last time you failed to resolve the situation with your stalker. You have to get a handle on that one way or another. You're in your haven when the intercom rings. Answering cautiously, you hear an older male voice. Hello, I'm calling because a friend asked me to come by and offer you my services. What do you mean? Well, yeah, like, who's the friend? Because actually, this would let me know whether or not I care, or I'm in danger. It was the friend. Better not talk about that on the intercom. Secrets are secrets. The man sounds strangely excited, breathing hard. You might have the wrong address. This, or we could just be confrontational. I need something to go on. She told me not to talk about these things in public. I know you're one of them. Please, it's all right. I don't mind. You can drink with me, if you understand what I mean. A man you've never seen before is paying a visit to an apartment not many people know of, offering for you to feed from him. Could be the girl? The daughter of the friend that Sophie gave us the first time? I don't drink with people I've never met. Don't worry, we can meet. Silence. A minute passes, and you hear a knock on the door to your haven. You cautiously open the door. A stranger looks at you sheepishly. He's in his 30s, dressed in a... Didn't they say he was an older gentleman? Excuse me? He's in his 30s, dressed in a clean business suit. He looks moderately successful, someone you could meet in an investment bank. Sorry, I didn't want to intrude, so that's why I called from downstairs. Well, we can break his neck in here, so come in. You know what? Come in. I was hungry anyway. Not really. We just had a drink, didn't we? The man looks comically satisfied as you usher him into your haven. He barely waits for you to close the door before he loosens the collar of his shirt, closes his eyes, and bares his neck in quivering expectation. You look at the man, taken aback by such forwardness. Figuring that you didn't invite the man here for a chat, you lean closer, take him by the shoulders, and sink your fangs into him. This is not an unpleasant way to feed, you reflect as the blood flows into your mouth. The food comes to your door of its own volition. The man moans as you drink from him, lost in the ecstasy of the kiss. I don't know what the new lore, the new edition of the game says, but I feel like that would be an interesting little modern twist to add to it. You know, like an Uber Eats or DoorDash thing for vampires, although apparently they don't like phones, but whatever. Anyway, it feels a little unseemly, but it would be churlish to begrudge him his pleasures. Taking care not to drink too much, you let go of the man after licking his wounds closed. Suddenly, you're startled by a surprising sight. A woman, not very old, strangely dressed, is looking at you intently, only an arm's length away. Did we not close the damn door? Before you can react, the mysterious woman opens your front door and vanishes from sight, leaving you to wonder whether you really saw her at all. As you stare confused, the man you drank from slips out of your haven and into the hallway, staggering a little from the effects of the kiss. You close your door, wondering what that was all about. At least you got to feed, if nothing else. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Okay. You know what? We'll go a bit longer. Rest. Let's go take care of another one of these. Say this happens next. You've taken care of Frank Doherty, but apparently there's someone still staking out Sophie's apartment. He's not that stupid, is he? The weather is cold and windy as you walk to Sophie's apartment. As a vampire, that doesn't matter anymore. You may have been saddled with eternal hunger, but at least you can ignore the wind chill. Just as you come to the door of Sophie's building, she storms out, murmuring into her phone. Yes, I know. Don't worry. I trust you to handle it. You've heard Sophie talk to her associates before. It's always the same. Generalities and vague suggestions. Makes you think she's involved in mysterious machinations, yet doesn't tell you anything. Sophie's dressed to kill, but there's nothing unusual in that. She likes to make an impression. A black car with tinted windows is waiting for her in the front of the door. In front of the door. Okay. Okay. I guess I'm not understanding. I thought we were actually in the building. The chauffeur steps out to open the car door for her. Sophie notices you. Oh, I'm glad you're in the neighborhood. If you could look around for me one more time, that would be wonderful. You told me you'd gotten rid of that reporter. Turns out he's still here, snooping around. Sophie's very good at communicating disappointment. She doesn't have to do much to make it clear that she's unhappy to have to return to this issue. I'll take care of it. After tonight, he won't trouble you anymore. Good. Don't disappoint me. The reporter talked his way into the building during the day. Once the doorman understood what was happening, he threw him out. He showed old pictures of me to my neighbors. It's very awkward, you understand. Sophie disappears into the car, and the chauffeur closes the door behind her. You watch as the sleek vehicle disappears into the Manhattan traffic, just one anonymous car among many. Best sit down somewhere and devise a plan of action. You go to a nearby diner, settle into a booth, and order a coffee from the steely-eyed Latino waitress. As she brings you your cup, you describe Frank Doherty to her on the off chance she's seen something. Just as she's about to answer, you happen to look outside. Something catches your eye. The diner is brightly lit, so you lean closer to the window to see the street through it. You got lucky. Frank is standing on the sidewalk on the other side of the street, looking at something on his phone. You slide out of the booth, throwing a few small bills on the table. Mumbling something to the waitress, you step outside. Let's sneak up on him. I mean, we could probably chase him, but for a reporter, Frank isn't terribly observant. You keep your distance, hiding behind people and cars, but he doesn't look around. It seems like he wants to find a private nook to inspect the photos he took tonight. An alley. He ducks in, and you follow. Oh my God, it's you! Please don't hurt me! Frank cradles his new camera in his arms, terrified of what you will do to him. You? I'm not a violent person. You came back. That was a mistake. Let's talk a little so we can figure out what kind of mistake it was. Please, I'll talk. Just tell me what you want. Okay, see, so I should have... Why are you here? You're sneaking around with a camera. Again. Why? I'm a reporter. I report. That's just my job. Look, I don't want any trouble. I can see that you're serious. As if the last time wasn't enough. There's something to Sophie Langley. I think you know what it is. You take a long, hard look at Frank Doherty. He's a tenacious man, but not brave. After the last time you met, you were sure he had been dealt with. Where did he find the courage to come here again? What's your real angle? I like you, Frank. You don't give up. What's your real angle here? Everybody plays an angle. That's one of the things you learn in my profession. You're smart. You know that there will be others after me. If there's a real story, they'll come and find it. Your best shot is with a friendly reporter. Someone you can trust. Someone like me. So what do you say? Get ahead of the story. It'll be good for you and Ms. Langley, too. You almost believe it, but something about Frank feels off. Okay. You don't say anything at first. It's easy to dismiss Frank as a joke, a has-been. Yet there's something beneath his talk, another story. A moment of silence is all you need for your presence to properly register in Frank's mind. He's too weak-willed to resist. Someone's leaning on you, Frank. Come clean. What? No, absolutely not. Frank's voice sounds shrill. You know you got it right in one guess. Sometimes I just need extra money, that's all. Where does this extra money come from? There's a guy. He's paying me, that's all. But I can't talk about that. Yeah, we shouldn't do that. Potence, huh? Offer Frank to work for you. I don't know. I don't think I'd be that clever. I don't think this character is that clever. And if we're going to push for information, we may as well do it with vampire power. You'll use the powers of your blood to grant yourself incredible strength. Okay, well, let's go back to intimidating instead of killing the guy. You punch a wall to intimidate Frank. Your fist crashes into the wall and you feel it crumbling, the splinters and dust falling from the ruined hole. Screaming in primal fear, Frank turns and runs. He stumbles in his panic, trying to move faster than his legs allow. You're pretty sure he won't be back, at least not of his own accord. And we just broke the Masquerade, so that was not good. I was hoping this dialogue was going to continue. Something in the power you displayed got to him. It feels good to use the power you have as one of the kindred. Still, you wonder whether it was a good idea to demonstrate your capabilities so brazenly. No, that was definitely a mistake. Okay, well, while we're out, wandering the streets, Benoit Segal wants to meet you again at the cathedral. You wonder whether that mysterious priest will be there. You started to look at churches differently since your last encounter with Benoit. You're not sure what happened inside, but it was unavoidably real. You felt it. When Benoit mentioned that being in the presence of Father Anthony's faith would eventually kill someone like you, an undead being, you believed him. It doesn't seem to be very common, though. In New York, you pass thousands of people every night, and none of them have made you feel so afraid and insignificant. If you were to encounter someone like Father Anthony in the subway or a nightclub, you would know. There are many churches in the 5 boroughs, and you're pretty sure most of them don't contain someone whose faith can touch you in this way. Yet you've become wary. It just might. Still, tonight the cathedral looks as before, a striking landmark acting as a symbol of faith for people who have no idea that vampires exist in their midst. For them, questions of faith and myth are theoretical or philosophical. For you, those same questions suddenly define the meaning of your new existence. You sneak into the cathedral like an old hand, as if going to church had been a regular part of your life. Instead, the cathedral is almost deserted. You're not sure if you'll be meeting Benoit alone. The idea of feeling Father Anthony's faith on your undead flesh freezes you with terror. Benoit is waiting for you in the front pews of the cathedral, in the exact same spot where you saw Father Anthony. Worried, you approach, but you don't feel the touch of faith that shook you before. Benoit nods as you sit next to him in the pew. Aren't you worried? About meeting here? What if your friend the priest returns? Don't worry. He's not here tonight. We've had some time to think. You've had some time to think. I'm guessing you found the touch of Father Anthony's faith hard to ignore. For most people, God's presence is a question of faith. When I talk with Father Anthony, it feels like proof. Benoit is fervent, intense as he speaks. It's clear these questions have consumed his existence. Perhaps they'll consume yours, too. What does the Camarilla believe? What do the kindred of the Camarilla believe, the old ones? It's true the elders are not always so good at teaching their childer. Maybe the Camarilla would function better if we all knew these stories. Benoit looks around reflexively to make sure nobody is listening. There are only a few people in the enormous cathedral, and they don't seem to be interested in 2 loners murmuring to each other in the front pew. It might seem like ancient history, things that happened thousands of years ago, but time works differently for our kind. If the stories are true, there are Methuselahs still in existence who walked the earth when Jesus was alive. The only problem is that old vampires lie. They adjust history to suit their egos. Surely something was written down before the Masquerade was established? Of course. The Tremere have many interesting manuscripts in their libraries. I've seen a few. If you have the chance, I recommend looking at them. I just happen to know a guy who might let me. This is how the story goes. God cursed Cain as punishment for the murder of Abel. Cain walked the night shunned by humanity and drank blood to sustain himself. Even from the point of our origin, we were damned. However, the story becomes really interesting when we move forward. Cain creates more of our kind, often referred to as the 2nd generation. They lived in the first city, later called Enoch, ruling openly over the city's human inhabitants. I see the first city as Cain's redemption. Cursed by God to wander, he remade himself as a ruler and lawgiver, acting as an immortal shepherd to humanity. It only started to go wrong when the 2nd generation begat the 3rd, and vampires started to run amok. So the 3rd generation, also known as the Antediluvians, who founded the great vampire clans, you can trace a direct lineage of blood to the Antediluvian of your clan. We know much more about them than we know about the 2nd generation. After the first city, Cain largely departs the story. Perhaps he was disheartened by the depredations of his descendants. The Antediluvians went on to build a 2nd city, in imitation of the first, but it's doubtful their rule was just. There are people moving around at the cathedral, and both you and Benoit have made sure none get close enough to hear you talk. Many of the people you've seen have been elderly or disabled, so it's not surprising that you hear the squeak of a wheelchair. What alarms you more is that you overhear an older woman speaking with a Russian accent mention Father Anthony. Older woman, you say. How... Let's find Father Anthony and see if he can help us. From what I've heard, he is an exceptional man. You turn to look and see two men and a woman. All three are in their 50s. She looks good for 50, clearly well worn by life. One of the men pushes the woman in a wheelchair. She's dark-haired and intense, seemingly only half in this world. Yeah, exceptional. But he doesn't like moles. The speaker is the shorter of the men, more animated and worried. He was probably a strong man in his youth, perhaps even an athlete. His voice carries a Midwestern accent. What the hell's a Midwestern accent? We're only interested in whether he likes blank bodies. You and Benoit look at each other. This is bad news. Whoever these three are, they can't be good for you. We need to get out. Let's meet outside. Run before they notice you. Move discreetly to the side. Let's, yeah. I feel like... So I'm not sure what blank bodies are in the World of Darkness lore, but it makes me think that this is something like pertaining to the angel, demon, mage, what's it called? Ascension? I don't know, that side of things. Probably not great for us. And I feel like doing this, we've already shown our face a little bit in the Masquerade tonight. Let's be discreet. Better not call attention to yourself. You decide to move to the side of the cathedral and pretend to pray at an altar. You walk casually towards the side, away from the three approaching mortals. You feel their eyes boring into your back, but you force yourself to be cool. They probably know who we are. Benoit is nowhere to be seen. You blinked and he disappeared in a burst of speed. Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Benoit. You're worried it was too conspicuous, but maybe the mortals missed it. You pretend to admire the architecture for a while before glancing back at the trio. They've settled at the exact spot you just occupied, apparently waiting for something and conversing in hushed tones. Once you're sure their attention is elsewhere, you start walking briskly down the side aisle towards the exit. That was a close call. Fuck you, Benoit. First time I meet you, and there's the priest. Now we almost get busted by whoever these three were. I'm off. Before Benoit has time to answer, you start walking down the street. Whatever the real truths behind vampires and faith may be, they clearly bring too much trouble with them. Benoit calls after you. Please, this wasn't my intention. Come back. Well, so this will end the quest line then, obviously. Alright, for the sake of the lore. You're pretty sure Benoit is sincere in not wanting to get killed. He just wants someone to talk to. You let him catch up to you. For a second, Benoit looks at you as if he was wondering whether he should say something. There's one thing I've always wondered about the story of Cain. The traditions of the Camarilla put a lot of faith in the relationship between sire and child. You're supposed to follow the example of your maker, yet Cain didn't really seem to care for the vampires he embraced. Did he think it was a mistake to create our kind? Well, my sire left me, so... Do the kindred care what he thinks? I don't know. My sire left me. Is that common among the kindred? Yes, unfortunately. The kindred are selfish and cruel. You know, I'm Sophie's child and you're her protege. It's amazing that we share an appreciation for the mythologies of our kind, considering Sophie has little interest in questions of spirit. You stare at Benoit. You knew there was something he wasn't telling you, but in all the talk about Cain in the first city, you forgot about it. Now the only question is, what does this mean? Does Sophie know her child is talking to you? Probably not. Don't hold it against me, but I admit finding some pleasure in seeing you suffer the effects of Father Anthony's faith. I suppose that's the demon in me. He's a demon! His eyes are glowing. Okay, well, I mean, we're going to be belligerent then, obviously. Push me and I'll push you back. You push Benoit seemingly gently, but your vampiric strength slams him against a car parked nearby, shattering a side window and leaving a big dent. A couple of passers-by turn to look, then quickly walk away, not wanting to get involved. This is not good for us. As you walk towards him, Benoit's features twist in fear and rage, and then he disappears, using the speed of the blood to run. Doing this on the street might have been a bad idea. You're left wondering whether there will be repercussions. Not the best night for us. Not the best night at all. So, obviously then, potent must relate to physical intimidation. Maybe I should read the rules for the role-playing game, since this actually does sort of follow the 5th edition setting at the very least, if not actually the game. Anyway, it's time to end this one here. I will see you next time.